Have you ever felt your mind was too heavy, full of noise you cannot stop? This is the story of a young girl who discovered the secret of peace. Hello, my friends. You are doing great with your English. Every day you practice, you grow stronger. Don't give up. My name is Sophia, and I will share this story with you. Listen slowly, shadow my words, and feel the meaning. Welcome to Fluent English Every Day. Liana was only 20 years old, but she felt much older. Her heart was heavy, and her mind never rested. Every day, she remembered mistakes from the past. Every night, she worried about what would happen tomorrow. It broke her heart that she could not enjoy the present moment. To be honest, Liana felt trapped. She wanted to smile, but her smile was weak. She wanted to sleep, but her mind was noisy. She looked around her little village, where children played and birds sang, but she could not feel joy. "Why is my mind always so loud?" she whispered. One afternoon, out of nowhere, she heard women in the village talking about a wise old woman who lived far away in the hills. People said this woman was once a great teacher in the city. She had helped many people find calm in their hearts. Now she lived in peace, close to nature, and sometimes shared her wisdom with visitors. When Liana heard this, a small light of hope woke inside her. For the first time in her life, she thought, maybe there is an answer. Maybe I can find peace. She felt nervous, but also excited. The next morning, Liana decided to leave. She packed a little food and water and said goodbye to her home. Her journey began on a narrow path through fields of tall grass. The sun was warm, and the road was long. She walked and walked, sometimes singing softly to give herself courage. But the journey was not easy. The hills were high, and the stones hurt her feet. Sometimes she thought, maybe I should go back. But then she remembered her restless mind, and she knew she had no choice. She had to keep moving forward. Days passed. Still, her heart whispered, don't stop. Finally, one evening, she reached the little village in the hills. The air was cool, and the sound of the wind in the trees was soft, almost like music. At the edge of the village, she saw a small wooden house, covered in green vines. On the porch sat an old woman. Her eyes were closed. For a moment, Liana stood still. I'll never forget this, she thought. This woman looks so peaceful. Liana walked closer and said softly, Grandmother, my mind is very restless. I cannot stop thinking. I want peace in my heart. Can you help me? The old woman slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Liana with kindness and gave a gentle smile. Then she said, So you are searching for peace. Come with me. I will give you a small task. And with those words, Liana's journey truly began. The old woman stood up slowly. Her steps were gentle, but her presence was strong. She led Liana to a small yard behind the wooden house. The air was cool, and the smell of flowers surrounded them. Then the old woman took a clear glass and filled it with water. She poured until it reached the very top. The glass was so full that even one small movement could make it spill. She carefully placed the glass in Liana's hands. Then she said, Walk to the gate of the village and return to me. But remember, you must not spill even one drop of water. Liana looked at the glass in surprise. Her hands trembled. She wanted to ask, What does this have to do with peace? But she stayed silent. She had no choice. If this was the task, she would try her best. So, Liana began to walk. The path was narrow, and many villagers were outside. Some women were washing clothes. Children were laughing and chasing each other, and dogs barked loudly near the houses. Shopkeepers called out to people passing by, offering fresh bread and fruit. But Liana kept her eyes on the glass. She walked slowly, step by step. Her heart beat fast. She thought, I must not spill the water. I must keep it safe. She moved carefully, not looking left or right. To be honest, she whispered, the road was uneven, and one wrong step could ruin everything. People looked at her with curiosity, but no one stopped her. They knew the old woman often gave unusual lessons. Finally, after what felt like hours, Liana reached the village gate. She turned around and walked back, her hands still steady, her eyes fixed only on the glass. The barking dogs, the voices of people all disappeared from her mind. There was only the glass. At last, she returned to the old woman. With relief in her voice, she said, Grandmother, I did it. I did not spill even one drop. The old woman smiled gently. Her eyes shone with wisdom. Good, she said. But tell me, Liana, did you see the children playing? Did you hear the dogs barking? Did you notice the shopkeepers calling? Liana looked surprised. She shook her head. No, I did not see or hear any of those things. I was only watching the glass. The old woman nodded. That is the secret. Your mind was focused on only one thing. At that moment, there was no space for fear, no space for sadness, no space for restless thoughts. You were not worried about the past. You were not afraid of the future. You were living only in the present moment. Liana stood still. Her heart felt different, lighter. For the first time in her life, she understood a little piece of peace. But this was only the beginning. The old woman had more to teach her, and Liana's journey was not over yet. Liana stood quietly, holding the empty glass in her hands. Her heart was beating, but her mind felt lighter than before. She looked at the old woman with curious eyes. Grandmother, she said softly, does this mean peace is only about focus? The old woman shook her head gently. Not only focus, child. Peace is about learning to live in the present moment. When you walked with the water, your mind had no space for yesterday and no space for tomorrow. You were here, only here. That is why your thoughts became quiet. Her words touched Liana deeply. It broke her heart to think of all the days she had lost. Worrying about her past mistakes and fearing the future, she whispered, I didn't see it coming, but the secret was always inside me. The old woman smiled. Yes, Liana, peace is not something you find outside. It is already within you, but you must choose to return to the present again and again. Thoughts will come, but you do not have to follow them. Like clouds in the sky, they will pass. Liana sat down on the porch, looking at the hills around her. For the first time in her life, she felt stillness inside. The air touched her face softly, and she noticed the sound of the birds. The world was the same, but she was not. To be honest, she thought. I used to believe peace was far away, in some other place, but now I see it begins inside me. She looked at the old woman again and said, Thank you, grandmother. You have given me a gift I will never forget. The wise woman placed her hand on Liana's shoulder. Remember, child, life will always bring storms. People will shout, problems will come, fears will rise. But when your mind is here, in this moment, you will always find calm. Empty your mind of noise and fill it with presence. That is true peace. Tears filled Liana's eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of freedom. She had no choice but to smile, and this time her smile was real. The weight she carried for so long was gone. As the sun set behind the hills, Liana began her walk back home. But she was no longer the restless girl she once was. She was lighter, calmer, and stronger. She whispered to herself, "I'll never forget this day. From now on, I will live each moment fully. That is where my peace lives." And so her journey had changed her forever. My dear friends, you are stronger than you think. Like Leanna, peace and strength are already inside you. You only need to practice and return to the present moment. And remember, you did amazing today with your English practice. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video. Subscribe to Fluent English every day and keep practicing every day. Step by step, your English will grow, and so will your heart. See you in the next story.